Welcome back on this Monday evening. Pierre Poilievre sailed through his Conservative leadership review on the weekend, and Progressive Conservatives on P.E.I. are hearing from the two candidates who want to lead that party. Desserud is a professor of political science at the University of Prince Edward Island, and he joins us from North River. And Don, did you guys escape the bad weather?
We did. We were all expecting another storm like we had this time last week, but all we have is wind, and it's bitter. Yeah. But we didn't get the snow this time.
All right, good for you. As I mentioned, Pierre Poilievre got a resounding thumbs up. 87% of delegates approving him to take on the next election, whenever that is. In his speech, he really seemed to drill down a lot on the threat of separatism in the country.
Yeah, this is a resounding victory. Everybody's saying that, but I think it's true, and it's a huge thing for Poilievre. We all know the story. It seems to be one problem after another. So this gets him back into the race. This as they say, consolidates his hold over the party. But he's still looking for his issues. The question is going to be for me, and this is what I'm finding really interesting, is to say, how is he going to read those numbers? Is he going to say, okay, I was making mistakes before, and they caused me problems. I've revised the way I present myself. Therefore, I have a resounding victory. I should stay with the new Poilievre. Or is he going to say, you know what? They love me the way I am, so I'm going to go back to where I was before. So he seems to be trying to find that to find that spot. I wonder myself, by the way, whether this is really just a way in which the Conservative Party is saying to the Liberals, don't even think of a snap election. I don't know if the Liberals are thinking of that, but everyone seems to be worried about it. Right. Don't even think of a snap election. We're ready. We're together. We can take you on. And again, if that's the case, then it's still not really about Poilievre's popularity or his leadership skills. There's other agendas going on.
Well, Canadian history is littered with premiers in particular who called snap elections and ended up paying for it.
That's right.
So let's concentrate a little bit on the island. A couple of candidates vying to become leader of the PC party and de facto premier. In a recent leadership debate forum, really, Rob Lance stepped down to be one of the two candidates running. He floated the idea of a tunnel connecting P.E.I. and Nova Scotia. He said he wants to dream big. That's big, all right. Is there anything behind that?
This seemed to come out of nowhere, so I don't know whether it's something that he just thought of at the time or whether there's been some serious planning. Not a new idea. It goes back to the 1890s. There were plans for a tunnel. In fact, there was a federal election where the issue here on the island was whether the government would support a tunnel project. The 1960s, Lester Pearson floated the idea of having a tunnel as well. So that's not new, but basically the issue is it always has been for Prince Edward Island is access to the mainland, particularly in the winter. It's a problem. It affects all sorts of different things. So finding some other way of not having to use ferries, particularly when you can't use them when the weather is bad, does make sense. Whether that's the idea, the right idea, that remains to be seen.
Right. The federal government wouldn't the federal government come back with, hey, we just cut the fares to cross the bridge in half. What more do you want?
Yeah. Well. That made a big difference. That did make a big difference to tourism. Made a big difference to a lot of the merchants on the island. At least they're claiming that they saw a big uptake in customers once those tolls dropped down. So that was not insignificant.
The island deficit has ballooned to $368 million. Has either candidate addressed that, and are deficits that's something people even care about anymore? Nova Scotia's through the roof. New Brunswick's through the roof. Are the numbers simply too big to even contemplate?
Yeah, I don't remember a time, except for the few years when Paul Martin was Prime Minister, where we weren't talking about huge deficits federally and provincially. So I will suggest that the public now just tunes that out because the numbers are so big. But Mark Ledwell has been talking about that as a problem and something to address. It's a tricky one for politicians because it's not a question of simply reallocating resources. It means cuts or tax increases or both. None of those things are popular. None of those things get parties elected. But it is serious. I mean, when the more debt you have, obviously, the more interest you have to pay to service that debt, the less money you have for other programs. But no government seems to have the ability, perhaps, to sort of tackle that issue. But back to your original question, yeah, I think the public just looks at that and says that's a bigger number than the number before, but they're all very big and they're just beyond comprehension.
Don, let me ask you about energy finally. There's been a lot of talk about it this year, the prices in all three maritime provinces, but also on the island in particular. There's been issues about whether the grid can maintain the demand, and talk of another line from New Brunswick. Where does that stand, and how did we get to this?
Yeah, again, this has been an ongoing issue. It's aging infrastructure. We're still using 19th century technology with wires on poles and these sort of things. But just basically the capacity. I mean, when you have all these programs saying we need to do more to conserve energy, but it's quite often what you're doing is you're trading one energy source for another. But what Maritime Electric has been warning during particularly these cold snaps is that they may not have the capacity to serve the island completely, and we could possibly have rotating blackouts or brownouts. That's an alarming thing to be talking about during cold weather. So it has always been precarious on the island. We're dependent upon those cables across the Northumberland Strait. We do have our wind farms, and they did help in this last cold snap. They actually kept things going because it was so windy. So that's a bit of a help. But this is a big issue, and there's a whole clean tech program at P.E.I, by the way, that's trying to work on that. That's just as we speak.
Well, Don, we're at the halfway point of winter, so it's something we'll all be thinking about for another few weeks anyway. And if you believe the prognosticators, who are marmots of various types, we could be in for an even longer winter. Don, thank you very much. Good to talk to you from Charlottetown tonight. From North River, I should correct myself. North River.
North River in Cornwall.
Okay. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
We'll be back with much more of your local news after this.